So I've gotten a lot of questions recently from people that aren't actually in jiu-jitsu yet, and they are wanting to train for the first time, but they have kind of some different issues, different injuries that are kind of worrying them. One guy here has a detached pec and tricep that's been repaired, but it kind of worries him now that he's like, man, you know, can I train? There's another guy that had a surgery recently, and he had some ribs broken and a collarbone broken, I guess through the operation, and that now he's healed, he's able to lift weights, but he wants to train jiu-jitsu because it seems like it's really cool. But again, they're worried, both of them are worried about getting into it because they don't want to get injured. And so first off, for any of you guys that are watching this, if you have a injury that's sort of in the back of your mind, it could be something that, even if you're training already and you get an injury, right, you're kind of wanting to get back at it, but you're worried about it, right? You're worried about, how am I going to get back into it? You know, is it even possible? I'll share this with you and sort of as a blanket response to all these. And so when you're getting into jiu-jitsu, the biggest thing, if you have an injury, a pre-existing condition of some sort, is to make sure that you do not roll for a while, right? Rolling is going to be something that we'll put on the back burner. And the hard part is, that's the hard part, because it's so much fun. It's so much fun to roll. It's like the dessert of training, right? The training, the technical training, the drilling, all that stuff. It's kind of like your meat and potatoes and broccoli. But the rolling is the dessert. And so one thing that you want to keep in mind is that when you roll, that's where a lot of times the injuries come from, because of just you're all over the place, right? Then there's so many variables and so many twists and turns and things that can go wrong. That's where typically the injuries are going to happen. Now, you can mitigate that possibility, especially if you're brand new, by getting into it and acclimating your body to the stuff first. And so I've had students come in here with injuries that they've had pre-existing, and I give them the same advice. So what I would recommend to you is, first off, start training. Let your coach, let them know what's up. Be like, look, I've got this thing, like in your case, a detached pec tricep that was repaired, ribs that are broken, collarbone that was broken, just kind of getting back into it, whatever it is, whatever your injury is, let them know the existing condition. From there, when you start training, spend at least, bare minimum, at least a month with no rolling, just to do technique. And the reason that you're going to do this is because you're going to see, like, okay, what hurts? Like, if I twist this way, do I feel anything? Or if I do this, is anything going to happen? And it'll also give your time, or your body time, to figure out where to post in the right spots, right? Okay, we're not going to put the hand on the mat in this position, or we're not going to grab this way or that way. We're going to do this instead. And it gives you time to sort of figure things out. And then afterwards, when you decide that after maybe a month or two or whatever it is, when you feel comfortable, when you feel like, all right, I feel like I'm ready for this, then you grab someone and you start to roll. Now, if possible, situational rolling would be the best, right? Because you can limit the possibilities, right? A lot of times with new people during our fundamentals class, we always do like situational rolling first. So we'll roll from a position. So for instance, let's say we worked on guard that day, right? Was doing some guard sweeps or something. Well, then that day when we roll, we're going to work on guard sweeps and working from the guard and trying to sweep the person from on top, and the person on top is going to try to pass the guard. And, you know, basically, so we can keep it confined to the area that we worked on. One, that'll give them a chance to use the technique, but also two, we mitigate the possibility of risks because we know everybody kind of where they're working. It's easier that way. If you can't do that, you can't do situational rolling, ask your coach, say, hey, listen, again, I'm getting into, again, talk to your coach as much as possible. These guys are going to be your guide through this stuff. So make sure that you develop a relationship with them and communication with them as early as possible. They're there to help. So again, talk to your coach and say, hey, listen, I'm wanting to start rolling now. Is it possible for me to roll with one of the more experienced people? So this way I can, again, mitigate the possibility of injury. Because again, you rolling with another white belt going full tilt against one another, it's all going to be all over the place. A lot of spazziness involved. But rolling with a higher level belt who can control you and basically keep you from hurting yourself would be really helpful. Also, when you come into jiu-jitsu, understand what your goals are and always come back to those, because what ends up happening is people will forget why they're doing this stuff and they just start training. Like, for instance, if you're training just because you want to enjoy it, right? You want to enjoy, you want to learn some stuff. Maybe you're an older guy, right? You don't need to train 6 days a week, even if you have the ability to do so. Just train at a moderate pace and enjoy it and spread it out and give yourself plenty of time in between to rest and let that body heal up so you don't use yourself up. Okay? If you're not planning on being a high-level competitor, you probably don't need to train as hard as those people. Okay? You're going to have to let go of the fact that some of them are going to progress faster than you because that's what they're doing. But again, that's okay, right? They have a different trajectory. They have a different path in this stuff. And you have to be okay with that, because what ends up happening is, let's say that you got Bob and Joe. We'll say Bob and Joe. Bob is a younger person that wants to be a competitor, doesn't have a lot of responsibilities, and so he's training like 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, multiple times a day even sometimes. And then you got, I don't know if that was Bob. Maybe we'll call that Bob. And then Joe is a guy who, he wants to train a little bit. He's got some other stuff going on and works a little bit, and he wants to train, and just sort of take in jiu-jitsu. They both start at the same time. More than likely, because of just the sheer time and volume of training, Bob's going to go faster, Joe is not, right? And that might be hard, even though Joe doesn't want to be a competitor, even though he doesn't want to have that high level ability, right? Or he wants the high level ability, but he doesn't want to go towards that path. He might get sucked into training as much as Bob because he's like, I want to keep up, I want to keep up, I want to keep up. Do not get sucked into that trap when you first start. Remember, you are a different person. You're judging yourself only by what you're doing. So don't get sucked into the trap of like, I've got to train more, I've got to train more, I've got to train more, just for the sheer fact that you feel like you're supposed to, or because you're keeping tabs on someone else and seeing how they're doing and basing your progress off of that. That's not a good idea. So, again, to any of you guys that are getting into training for the first time and you've got some injuries existing, remember, talk to your coach when you first come in. Let them know what's up. Try it out. See what hurts, what doesn't hurt. Just do technique, just do drilling, just do movements, that kind of stuff first. And then once you kind of get a feel for what's going on, you know what the positions are, you know what not to do, you know what to do, then you say, okay, cool, let me try to roll. If possible, roll with a higher belt at first. If not, just see if there's some situational rolling you can do. If not, again, more than likely your coach will be able to accommodate you with one of those things. So that's it, guys. I hope that helps.